The scariest thing isn't losing someone, it is losing yourself while trying to keep them. Have you ever felt like while trying to keep someone in your life, you lost yourself? I want you to sit and ask yourself this question. The connection you are in right now, is it feeding your life or slowly draining your identity? And let your inner self answer this. Understand it has very less to do with what is wrong and what is right, but it has everything to do with your inner world. Let's take an example. When a person is thirsty, they have salt water thinking it will quench their thirst. It does. It does. But your body understands a deeper truth. The water you just drank, it is slowly harming your body from inside without even you realizing it. In the same way, depending on somebody emotionally can feel like love because it has closeness, it has temporary sense of comfort, it has connection. But if you look deeper, it is not coming from a place of freedom. Rather, it is coming from a place of fear, emptiness, a need to be felt by someone else. And real love is not like that. Real love is predictable. It is boring. It is really boring. It does not go and come back. It feels comfortable. It makes you fall in love with yourself. It makes your nervous system calm. It is predictable. And especially, it makes you whole and complete within yourself. And this is the reason why you should stop romanticizing emotional dependency. Hi guys, I'm Kohana and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So as I said before, emotional dependency has very less to do with outer world. You know what? The deeper truth is that we as humans, we tend to search for things we quietly believe is missing inside us, whether it's some kind of validation or worth that uh, we are lovable. It's some kind of proof that we can be chosen. It can be anything. And at majority of times, it can feel like when somebody finally gives us everything what we are missing inside us, something inside us will settle. We will finally be at peace. But there is another truth of layer which most of people do not want to face. It is that even after receiving everything you need, you will still not feel complete. Something inside you will always remain unsteady. Because if you truly do not believe it, your mind will start questioning it. Your heart will start testing it. Your fear will create doubt until the very next moment. Everything you wished, you needed, you got, you received will collapse under your own weight of disbelief. It happens because your nervous system does not know what is right and what is wrong. It does not know what is harmful and what is safe. It only knows familiarity. If chaos, inconsistency, or emotional hunger has been part of your life since very long, then your body slowly starts to understand it is something normal for you. And it even feels comforting in a very strange way. And even when you grow older, your mind starts to evolve. It tries to give you red flag signals, but your body does not understand it. And that is where you are stuck. Because your nervous system, your body leans towards back to that same pattern. Because that pattern feels like home, even though that home is painful. And this is the most important reason why emotional dependency can should never be romanticized. Because over the time it slowly takes a person from themselves, it removes them from their own life, making self-abandonment feel like love. And this is the most dangerous illusion it creates. I think people in general romanticize it for same reason because look at the movies, the books, look at the way how world talk about love. They make love about sacrificing, compromising. They make that a person should lose themselves to prove that they are in love. It creates an illusion that suffering is part of love. Suffering is part of love, but for this context, I don't think so. You know what? Suffering feels deeper because love feels unfamiliar, almost empty, especially when a person is so used to emotional chaos and hunger that they start confusing love is equals to intensity. And real love makes them feel like nothing is happening. While intensity, on the other hand, gives the illusion of meaning. It gives the illusion that it has some value, even though it is just instability in disguise. I remember the time I was 15 and I just came back from police station. I had a very, very tiring day. It was a kind of day where I was just exhausted. Physically, mentally, emotionally, I was just drained. And it was midnight when I came back, and all the way coming back to home, I was just praying that I just need time for myself because I felt like it was some kind of nightmare and I just need to wake up. But the moment I reached my home, I opened my door. There were people, there were noises, there were different type of voices. Curiosity disguised as concern. I remember feeling this strange kind of emptiness, even though given to the fact that I had people around me, I still felt hollow inside me. Nobody asked if I needed something. They didn't even give me space that I just came back from something very tiring. Like they didn't even ask me for water. It was just my grandmother who couldn't even walk, but still made it to bring some water for me. And that was the moment that shaped everything. That was the moment when I understood that I need to hold myself. These people cannot help me, not because they're incapable or not deserving, but they don't know how to make me feel home. I was just 15. All I needed was space to breathe, but I didn't get that. It was a very painful time. It was a literal nightmare, and that was the time where I somehow got convinced. So, continuing with the story, I sat down with my food, and mind you, people were just constantly around me, and they were just talking, and I was having food, and I don't know what happened. While just biting over my food, something just made me cry out loud. I was just crying. I remember I was just holding my head and I was crying like a mad woman. I was crying like something just died. Someone just died. And I was crying, 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 and people around me happened to say, "You shouldn't cry because of them. They don't deserve your tears." Since when did my emotions become about them? I needed space to breathe. I wanted to come home with I wanted to come home, but I never got that home. It was like I was just lost. I was crying like a mad woman. I didn't know what was happening. Even I was confused with myself. I was asking questions. Why am I crying? I didn't find the answers. I was just crying continuously. But you know what? Even at 15, what I did, I stopped myself. Even though I was crying like a mad woman, let me repeat that again. I stopped myself. I happened to wipe my tears and I begged them. I joined my hands and I begged them to let me cry. It was like I was needing permission to feel what was mine completely. And from that day, something inside me just became more silent, quiet, and so mature. But I was, but inside, I just became less expecting. And that was also the time where I understood what emotional dependency can do to a person. I I was very young to grasp the full lesson, but it somehow stayed back in my mind that emotional dependency can actually make a person hollow from inside. I also remember being with someone who was a decade older than me, and the irony was that I never even liked him. I never had feelings for him romantically. But you know, it was so fascinating to me to have somebody who can take over my baggage, who can understand me, who can just know me, who can read me, who can just figure out what to do and what to not. But all that time, something just felt off. It was like many different sides of me, not only one, many different sides of me just went completely shut off. It was like I was caged in a dark, small room and it was very suffocating to the point I couldn't breathe. It had no light, it had no windows, it had no doors. I was just trying to take a breath and somehow I was alive in that moment. But I wanted to be unalive because it was just so uncomfortable. But my nervous system was very, very, very unpredictable at that time. Not unpredictable, but it was very grown used to chaos that even though my mind was very aware about the red flags about the whole situation, my body and nervous system just couldn't be apart from that man. I now that I'm 20, I understand that my past wasn't thought no, actually my past wasn't misunderstood that love is something to do with potential. I believe that if I can understand somebody, if I can overgive, overlove, then finally, somewhere down the line, they would finally reciprocate. They would finally choose me because they will need me to understand them, to love them. So, you know, it will not only benefit them, but I will also get benefited. I would constantly become drained because I was giving from a place that wasn't filled, that was just empty. The hardest realization was that It had nothing to do with them. It had nothing to do with the friends I had before who were draining my energy. It had nothing to do with the men I was attracting before. But it had everything to do with me. It made me realize I wasn't unlucky, I wasn't unworthy. It was just that my nervous system was so used to emotional hunger and chaos that every time I tried to take myself to a healthy route, my nervous system still would go back to the same emotional loop I had been through my entire life. In different stages of my life, I had different things to deal with. And every time the problem came, it was not only related to relationships, but it was related to my health, career, money, everything. And one day I had enough of it. I was like, if I keep falling down, just let me sit in my rock bottom and let me just embrace as I am. Let me just be alone. The demons I thought were just the demons I thought were slowly draining my identity, I sat with them. And I understood that demons are actually my teachers and they are trying to make me understand something. Where I started pausing. That is where I started to understand what is happening inside, what is actually making me react in certain ways. I started noticing what felt off instead of ignoring it. I started asking myself questions. I started observing me. I started to note down what are my patterns. And for the first time, I didn't immediately run towards something, but I came back to myself and it felt so peaceful. At present, I am not in a place where I'm fully healed, but I am very sure that I am very conscious that I cannot go back to the same patterns again. I am detached in a way which is making me feel home within myself. I am so aware in a way that I cannot go being back to become somebody who was unconscious. I still feels the strong urge to go back to the unhealthy patterns, but there is this strong part of me who just who is just so precious and wonderful and very strong that tells me to pause, to breathe, and to come home within myself, to choose me this time. And every time she wins over every other part of me, which wants to go back to the unhealthy patterns, and every time she wins, I just love it. I started to do things differently, taking time before reacting, thinking before saying, sitting with my emotions instead of avoiding them, journaling, reminding myself of my own worth. I talk to myself gently. I talk to my inner self kindly. I am soft with myself. It doesn't always necessarily fix me immediately, but it surely gives me a ground. But I think choosing yourself is not loud or dramatic. It is very quiet. It's very lonely. At times it is also very uncomfortable. But it strangely feels right in a way chaos never did. Maybe that's what growth actually is. Not becoming perfect, but becoming somebody who just chooses yourself again and again. Real love is not about searching for someone who can give you everything you need. It is about giving yourself what you need and want so that everything which comes from outer world, it is just reflection, just bare minimum what you give to yourself. It becomes a reflection, not a requirement. I now finally accept that in beginning what I call love was just intensity, rush of emotions, closeness, conversation that felt meaningful in that moment, but in reality it didn't bring anything in my life. It didn't add value. I deeply understand that it was just surface. It was just surface. And I also understand that real love is very boring. It makes your nervous system calm. It makes you fall in love with yourself. It makes you aligned with yourself. It makes you full. It makes you complete. It makes you whole with it. You have to break the pattern by removing the excess. You have to break the pattern by changing the behavior. You have to break the pattern by noticing your triggers, noticing how you react without even you realizing it, noticing how things happen without your knowledge. It is slowly building discipline, in the place where was once obsession. Accept that discomfort, accept that loneliness, accept that painful situations and phases where you just feel that nothing is happening, you are moving nowhere in life. So know that what you are experiencing right now, it is a kind of withdrawal. It's kind of a withdrawal from the person who became an emotional drug into your system. Also understand that healing will not look beautiful, it will look very ugly at times. But also understand that healing happens in spiral, not in circle. It might look like a circle, but is actually a spiral. Be consistent with yourself, show up for yourself, promise yourself, even though it's a small promise, and show up with those promises to yourself. And come back to home. Come back to yourself. You are your home. Last but not least, I would just like to wind up by saying you don't have to chase what's meant to be yours. Come back to yourself. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you for needing love. But you surely deserve a kind of love that does not make you shrink and uncomfortable. It is very okay that it feels lonely right now. It is just the process of returning home to yourself. And the piece you're choosing today, I hope it makes you the softest version of yourself that you bloom and bloom. Bye.